introduce our special lady of the day, Reverend Elivia Melody. I've known her a couple of years, and we've served together. We've just had so much fun in the past, and I just there's just no words for this delightful lady, delightful sprite, energy of peace and goodwill. She's just full of wisdom and excitement, and I'm just so blessed to know her. And Reverend Elivia Melody is a clairvoyant from birth. Reverend Elivia Melody developed her innate ability to read energy dowsing as a child. She became an ordained spiritualist minister in 1986. And as a conscious trance channel, she has the ability to communicate with many realms and dimensions. Reverend Olivia is an internationally acclaimed recording artist whose channeled music is highlighted in the documentary film Vibration for Healing, Sounds That Heal. Her first book, The Sovereign Empath, A Sensitive's Guide to Navigating the Universe, is due out this fall. Woo! Over the last 40 years, she has held numerous ongoing development classes, workshops, and retreats, as well as working with thousands of private clients. This is a brief description. She is multi-talented. She has so many gifts that she so beautifully shares with others. And I can't wait to hear you talk. Let's welcome warmly, please, Reverend Elivia Melody.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Mother's Day. I was volunteered to talk at Mother's Day, and every year it's slightly different. I'm a conscious trance medium. I'm a direct voice medium. And so this year I asked, would you please have it upbeat? We'll just start off with a little history, and that was somewhere in like the 1920s that a woman who had just gotten the vote lobbied everyone to try and get a Mother's Day through. And it finally did go through, and then she was so appalled at the commercialization of it, because she just wanted to recognize all the energy and all the time and all the work that it took to go to be a mama. And so then she spent most of the rest of her life trying to get rid of it. And then the big fat joke is that the National Florist Association paid for all the flowers at her funeral because it is the #1 full day of the year. Now I'll start by saying that mamas come in all shapes, sizes, and forms. No one's given a handbook, and each one of us, a handbook that we have to pass, kind of like a driver's license. Get the road test, and then you have to memorize the book. How do we learn? We learn from our beautiful parents. We learn from our beautiful parents, whether they were so wonderful with us and gave us fabulous examples, or it wasn't so wonderful and gave us exquisite, not fabulous directions. And as a medium over the years, everyone has their own ordinary reality. And sometimes the men will pull their pockets inside out when they've got nothing. And the women too, and they'll say, I did the best I could with what I knew. And sometimes they teach us by omission. Now, I always thought I had a fabulous growing up. I mean, I had no complaints. And yet over the years, I think because I started in metaphysics a long time ago, I was ordained when I was really young, I thought I had a great mama. How come all of my best girlfriends over the years have had exquisitely traumatic childhoods? You think of bad, we're talking bad on bad. Okay? Not your run of the mill, but bad on bad. And then I started learning metaphysics and I realized there must be some law of vibration. I look in the mirror going, I had a good childhood. And then I think a while ago, less than 30 years ago, about 30 years ago, my older sister sent me a book and it was called Motherless Daughters. And they need one for men too. And you read that book until you find you in it, and then you just start crying. What are motherless daughters? They're the mamas who went to prison. They're the mamas who died young. They're the mamas who were addicted. There are the mamas who just really didn't like children. Did you know Queen Victoria, who loved her Albert and the whole Victorian era? She hated the idea of giving birth and she hated the idea of babies and she thought they were all really ugly and she had to get them. You know, she popped them out. I think Albert played with them a little bit, but you know, she thought they were ugly and unattractive and wait till you have something important to say, then I'll talk to you, right? She wasn't there for her kids. Or I kind of figured it out because all those years of mediumship, my mama never came through. My mama she was a first timer from a mental dementia. She was Phi Beta Kappa in med school at 19. No one ever thought she'd get married. She was a first timer. And she had a contract with my daddy, who happened to be 13 years older. So she stopped med school, he went off to war, and she told her aunts and her mama, I have to learn how to cook, and I need to learn how to make clothes, because Phil wanted 8 and we settled on 6. She loved us fiercely, but she didn't have that emotional quality that mamas have naturally, whether they beat you with a stick or they stuff you with cookies. She didn't have that emotional quality. Almost the same as if she was in prison or on drugs. It just wasn't there. And she loved us fiercely. Each one of those 6 kids had specialized schooling, had specialized hobbies. And then she cooked. Young. The youngest was 10 and she cooked. And I finally figured it out. I mean, you can get messages from her if you really want to, okay? But she should find exactly where you are. And so now I look at my girlfriends, and new girlfriends, and they didn't have, some of the old ones are still there, but they don't have those mortifying childhoods. Mamas come in all shapes and forms. And when teaching mediumship, I say each person's going to develop their own non-ordinary reality vocabulary. You can't help but compare when you start off, okay? And when I started off, after a break of like 15 years at Harmony Grove, I would be on the stage with all of these physical mediums, and they'd get up there and they'd be fully entranced, and they'd be yelling and stomping and giving messages, and with each medium that got up there, I got smaller and smaller. And then I learned to raise my hand and say, I'm going to go first. Because how can you follow that act when you have Native Americans up there, and you have this one up there, and that one up there? I mean, it's quite a show. And nowadays I teach physical mediumship is history, although it's still there, it still exists, and the eye can be physical, but I'm a huge extrovert, and it takes me a good half an hour to reincorporate. Don't touch me, don't talk to me, let me go sit in the corner. And it's hard on your physical organs over time. And I would talk them back. So that's where all the music came from. And my digital recorder and my cell phone is covered with goop, because it comes out of your hands, right? And every other orifice. And then I have to clean it up, right? But I don't go out all the way. So mamas, you can't compare. I love it that they've done so many studies in the last 10, 20 years on empathy. Because frankly, this is the life of all lives to have lived, and this is the time of your life, and we're still in what the Hawthornes began saying in Hawthorne's 10th dimensional beings with cat ears when they dumbed down to 7th dimension. and helped build the pyramids, with sound. They've got the Temple of Hathor, and they don't come back because they're dimensional beings. They don't have bodies, but they can come dumbed down to a being that looks about 12 foot tall with cat ears. I don't know. But they do say, bow down to no one. Worship no one. You've forgotten who you are. That you are a perfect fractal, a perfect expression of source energy. Because I remember one day, shortly after I moved here and moved back and said I'd surrender, I woke up one morning like, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I think that ghost could be male too. What happened to half of humanity? And I went looking. And the only place I could find the divine feminine was in Hinduism. And I was taught that most of India is crystal on vacation, meaning they're so spiritual they just don't care. And I said, I'm never going to go there because I've probably lived so many lifetimes there. I have no interest. And there I was there a year ago. 2 years ago. Okay, and every nice home that you're staying in, or lovely hotel, Airbnb, has a guard in front. And I watched the guard, and he finished his little dinner, and then he walked across the road, which looks like a dirt road, okay, but it's a road. And then he just tosses it all in the bushes. Yeah. Why don't they swim? Because 1/4 of all humanity lives in that little subcontinent. 2 billion people. 2 billion people live in North America, South America, and most all of Europe. And they pollute the water. So they don't learn to swim because the water's really polluted. And they're so spiritual, they just wait for those monsoon rains to come and wash it all into the ocean. Unless you're in southern India where the water's really, really clear and really beautiful and no one gets in the water. They'll just walk along the beach and get their wedding pictures taken. But they don't care. Well, we care, and we're moving more and more into unity consciousness. So the more I thought about where's half of humanity, in India, not that they necessarily teach it, and it has devolved, every chakra has a male and a female component. Every god, and they've got lots of them, and there's the big kahuna at the top. But for every male god, there's a female god, just as important. And we all love Babaji. Yeah, that's Babaji. Back there on the left, right below Jesus. I believe that's Krishna.
One on the bottom right.
Oh, Babaji's over there, yeah. Okay, so Babaji's apparently never fully had a life. He's just always lived here on Earth, and he reincarnates where he appears every now and then. And you've got him up there because he taught a very special yoga breath practice to the fellow on the left on the bottom, which is, I'm going to say his name wrong, but he's a householder. That means he's married and he's got kiddos. So we taught that special breath practice to him. He appeared in his ways. And then the fellow at the top, which happens to be my bestie, even though I said, I'm not an SRF or a Hindu person, but I know him. And then he appeared to Sri Yukteswar to give that, and it's a whole lineage. History is written by men, his story. When it comes to the ascended masters or mistresses, there are just as many women up there as there are men. We just don't know their names because who's it being written by? The men. When it comes to angels, they don't have a sex. And when they began identifying different angels and giving them names, somewhere in the Middle Eastern area, if you'll notice, I'm going to make this up, okay? So they identified about 28 of them. And each one of them has the end of their name ends with EL, which simply means shining one. Shining one. And we like to call on Archangel Michael with his mighty sword. Doesn't that sound really tough, particularly when it comes to protection? Right? But Archangel Michael is also female. And as is Uriel, as is Sandalphon. Oh yeah, well Sandalphon and Metatron were taken up in a beam of light in the Old Testament, which kind of sounds like a spaceship. So they got different names, Sandalphon and Metatron, but all the rest end in E-L because they named them there. And we do have angels globally. In the East, they simply have light around them, the shining. And when I teach chakras, well, we always do chakras, but when you get up to your third eye and you make that pineal bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and they say it's about the size of a pea and it begins shrinking when you're 8 years old. Baloney. All right? You work at making it bigger, and when you can get it as big as a watermelon, you can fill every pore on the top of your head. And they go, okay, now move your head a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and that's your halo. Can you feel the energy coming off the top of your head? You too, because who are you when you get all the different interdimensional pieces of you and the aspects of you and the part that lives in your home port on Aldebaran or Pleiades, whatever, okay, so all of you are star seeds. But what is the rest of you, the totality of you? Each of you are angels. And when I began teaching angels a long time ago, I sat next to a dear friend who works out of Orange County, and she specializes in angels. I said, you teach angels? She goes, yeah. I said, you teach hierarchy? She went, yeah. I said, you teach thrones? And she went, yeah. I said, there's only one mention of thrones, and it's in the Old Testament, and it's a whirling ball of light with many eyes. I said, I'm pretty sure that's a spaceship. Tune in. And she went, you're right. Well, I stopped teaching angelic hierarchies because when we spend time looking at the angelic beings, and basically they're the architects that hold the archetype or the pattern, as everything is birthed into physical creation. So your body, the body that you rent, this lovely meat suit, it has an angelic being in charge of it. Everything from the ladybug to planet Earth, to this solar system, to this galaxy, to each galaxy as it's birthed from the center of all that is, as an angelic group. Pretty wild. So who knows who you are? Bow down to no one. When it comes to Mama, we live here on planet Earth, one of the most fascinating laboratories in all of the galaxies and all of the worlds. We have third dimension, which exists other places. And there are places in the universes that you just really don't want to go, okay? Because everything that you can imagine does exist. Galactic wars, blah, blah, blah. And if you ask the Galactic Command, what's the hardest thing they have to do? They'll go, upholding personal will, personal freedom. You're not allowed to completely obliterate. It's like personal will. The word went out. Okay? So yeah, you can decimate planets and solar systems and universes, but you cannot completely reap all of the life force. So they can't stand in the way of that. You can really do bad stuff. But here on planet Earth, we have third dimension, we have the appearance of gravity, we have, and then we have division. There's some more things, but that's it. We have division, the appearance of good, bad, right, wrong, up, down. I love it that the word sin comes from Greek and it means simply missing the mark. Missing the mark. And we have male and female, and a lot of fifth dimensional places have male and female, right? But what we do have is that idea of division. And so in the great invocation, which Ani Besant wrote after she'd already channeled 23 books from Dwala Kul, Ascended Master, worked with Helena Blavatsky to bring forth the secret doctrine, which is very left brain, but it's the whole cosmology of the universe and everything, like 1880. You have Theosophical Society, you have everybody's birthed from her. About the same time as spirit, and she was a spiritualist, and she imported big rubies and did all kinds of fancy things. Dolicle, so the next thing I'm going to give you, you need to write it down word for word, like she hadn't done it with 23 books. And they gave her the great invocation, which I'm not going to paraphrase because he said each word is an alchemical formula. Do not change this. And if you go onto Google, they'll give you like the modern day great invocation. It's not an alchemical formula. But in that, from the point of light within the mind of God, let light spring forth into the minds of men. Anyway. It said, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. And evil is simply division, because where we're going is unity. So if you go back to Big Daddy God, okay, and you add Big Mama, the goddess, because this world was ruled by the goddess, the idyllic birth and created and all of that. And then it all changed over time. Instead of the Holy Ghost, you would have the divine child. Who's the divine child? You are. You're a perfect aspect of source energy. You're the perfect combination of daddy, mama, and you. In esoterics, you will look at it as a combination of the heart, the mind, and the solar plexus, directed will. Now, the big fat bummer is when you come in, 85% of everything you do is set in stone by your higher self. You chose this life. And if you go to the Akashic records, I have students with their jaws on the floor. Why exactly did you choose that father? Why exactly did you choose that mama? What qualities did you hope to get from them? Physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. What did you want to learn from them by omission, by them not giving it to you, and what did you hope, and how did you hope to grow? Did you want to spend the rest of your life being a victim, being a martyr, complaining? Or are you going to use that 15% of directed will to choose to do it differently? Now, from having 6 kids and 4 girls, only one had children. It just looked like too much work. Didn't look like a lot of fun. But each of them are loving and caring. It's just being a mama looked like a lot of work. And if you look at a mama, our ideas of mama, and when I read for people, and I know they had a great mama, she comes in looking like Santa Claus's wife. Okay, she's got big round cheeks, got a round chin, her whole face just says, I love you. Alright? But otherwise they do the best they can. They didn't get that handbook. And regardless whether they beat you silly, whether they told you at 14, I'm leaving, don't try to find me, and you're 14 and you're the oldest of 4 others. They get carted off to prison, or they're on drugs, or they're just not there. Gotta love her because she did volunteer on some level, you know? There are no accidents. Being born is an exacting science as the moment you croak, with his own special band of angels. And so whatever our mamas gave us, whether they gave it to us by omission, because they didn't have it. They gave us life. The life that we carefully chose. Whether you wanted to have a life of obstruction, of abandonment, of betrayal, of poverty, of disability, you chose that. Your attitude is what counts. And now, and for the last 10 years, I've been saying communication in the future is not from the head, it's from the heart. Where do you want to direct your will? What do you tell yourself each morning? Okay? How can you mama yourself? How can you show up in a way that you wish your mama could have or did show up for you? Every day's a random present day. Depends on your need for what that present is. How can you treat and support and celebrate? And it doesn't have to just be one day. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Every day's your birthday. Okay? So with that, I'll end. We want to thank all of the mothers of all kinds, whether you're a mother of animals, whether you're a mother of nature, whether you're a mother of children that don't talk to you or you have to have restraining orders out against them. I have several of those friends, remember? Okay? We still want to celebrate all mamas that brought forth life. I took 1,000,000 years of art history. I said I had 7 years of art therapy. And the different things they teach, different times. But they have these little statues of pendulous breast women with fat thighs, and they simply call them fetish figures. And they're found all over Europe and Africa. And it's left over from worshiping the goddess. Okay, it's just not where we are right now. We're working our way back. Okay, it's not going to happen all at once, but it will happen. It will happen. Okay, and what's the way through? Your mind. Celebrate yourself. Look on the bright side. Expect the best. And be thankful for that mama, however she appeared in your life. And so, yes, thank you for that.